putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, fellow patriots. You're listening to the Kevin Jackson Show on KJRadio.com. I am your guest host, Liz Matory, and in the last segment, I was talking about some dear people to me, the late Marion Barry, and unfortunately, the late Marion Christopher Barry. Right, so between 2015 and the summer of 2016, Christopher unfortunately succumbed to his addiction August 14th, 2016. If anything, unfortunately, as I said before, all the different sort of experiences that I've had over the last 4 years, I'm not going to lie, I have a lot more relatedness than I'd like to have with the greater society. As you know, our addiction problem is uncontrollable now. I appreciate the fact that now people are taking the time to appreciate that it's a mental health issue, not just a, you're a bad person issue. And maybe that sort of, compassion that we now give to people who suffer addictions. I wish that we had that sort of compassion as late as August 2016, because Christopher, unfortunately, his biggest fear, hugest fear, was to be remembered because of his addictions, which, of course, he inherited from his father, which he inherited from his father. And, I really didn't plan on talking about this right now, but I don't really talk about it on a public situation, but I do think that more people need to understand that there's so much context and relatedness to what people are going through, that with Christopher, people always blamed him for his own issues, but always gave Marion sort of the benefit of the doubt. And of course, especially in conservative circles, everybody loved to talk about, the crack mayor, whatever. But, I guess that's the reason why I push so hard against the establishment, because, that there's one story, one news story, or one case, one criminal case. And in many societies and situations, there's a reason why certain things are focused on and others aren't. Christopher always felt like, everybody's trying to get him. He had a very sort of, it could be a legitimate concern, or it could be a bit of paranoia. It could be both. But think about it. Going back to it, there are very few second-generation civil rights leaders. Unfortunately, even Malcolm X's son was killed, and Marion Barry, and his legacy. Unfortunately, Christopher, oddly enough, that's the reason why I'm very pro-life now. Christopher's life, that was when he ended, from what we know of, he didn't have children. One of his girlfriends, did end a pregnancy because it was one of those unplanned situations. But, fast forward, if she hadn't had the abortion, there would have been a next generation. Mind you, of course, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's just really interesting to see that, for me personally, there are too many people who are dying, and lives are lost, and generations are lost, and really hope has diminished so much in our society that I know for a fact that we need something drastically different. In my opinion, and of course, I'm not speaking for Kevin, but Kevin has spoken very adamantly and passionately about his journey and his belief and quite frankly, the truth of the left. Let's be honest. There is a purposeful, strategic, deliberate degradation of society that has gone on since the 60s. A lot of our elders before did not want welfare. They knew that creating a welfare state, or for us meaning black folk or poor folk or whatever you want to call it, to be dependent on the government would take away not only our own responsibility, but also our integrity. We talk about liberties a lot in the conservative circles, but people forget that with liberty and freedom come responsibility and autonomy. And so, when you're working in the middle of, the harshest ways of living in many respects in our inner cities, you wonder, how did this happen? And why has this been able to go on? And of course, criticism and critique will be like, oh, well, Marion was mayor for so long, part of it is his fault. And perhaps it is. I'm not here to, there are a lot of people who think that he did no wrong. I'm not ever going to feel like that, because once again, I actually had to deal with the ramifications of, trying to support a son who felt abandoned by a lot of people. And so that was a lot of our conversation too. But I just really, at the end of the day, all these things that are happening, I want to believe, and I'm sure you want to believe, and I'm sure, absolutely sure, that Kevin wants to believe that we have to find a way out of the mess that we have found ourselves in. And when I say we, I mean everyone, whether it's taxpayers or, teachers or children. I mean, we're all in the same boat together. And I talk about the republic. Yeah, we are a constitutional republic. Our country, this, again, another big fact that I love to talk about as a newfound conservative is that, why was our country made so, it was crafted in a way. And, when you go up and you learn about your government and civics, it's like it makes sense, A and B and C and D, and this happened and that happened, and yay, 4th of July. But when did it all of a sudden occur where now all of a sudden I, as an American of African descent, or black, skinned or black woman, now all of a sudden have to define myself as the other? I've got a lot of criticism about calling myself American first, because, again, when you watch sort of that false philosophy of the left, they want to say, oh, you're African American and you're Black American, and there are other, like Irish Americans, this, that, and the other, but specifically the way that they use the terms African American or Negro or whatever, it's as if it's to make sure that we never, ever, ever really hone into the fact that our might and our opportunity and our birthright is as Americans. And if you really want to go into Pan-Africanism, and if you really go into, the power of Black people throughout the globe, or people non-white, or whatever you want to define it as, yeah, Black-skinned people in the United States of America are the most powerful in the entire world, because we are in the most powerful country in the world. We as citizens, we have equal right to the privileges and the rights and the power of the United States of America. Yes, there are Black people for everywhere, but again, they are not citizens until they become citizens of said country. And so, there's a lot of, criticism and critique and ire and anger around our president and what he said or what he didn't say or what he tweeted or he didn't do and all that stuff. At the end of the day, like, you have to know. I mean, I know as listeners of the Kevin Jackson Show, the real and what's not. But why the heck don't everybody else understand it? And again, we're going to have to take another break in the next minute, but the next hour I'd like to sort of break down where we go from where we have been. If we have 3 generations of generational poverty from the growth of the big government and the welfare state and the degradation of society and breaking down of family and culture and community and self-worth, value, all these different things, what do we do in 2018 in light of a overt resistance movement? What do we do as patriots, as proud Americans, as non-leftists. Let's be honest, it's not just conservatives that we have to worry about. We are talking about the sanctity and the future of our country. Our country, regardless of what your skin color is, what gender you are, what you gender identify with, what religion you are, what religion you don't practice, all these different things. What power are we missing when we don't identify as Americans first?
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.